forecasts. The heat advisory will continue today. It'll be around 96, 97, mostly sunny, but the all-important feel-like temperature 107, light southwest winds. Mid-70s overnight, mostly clear skies expected. Mostly sunny in the mid-90s Saturday, a feel-like temperature 105. There might be a shower or thunderstorm Sunday, about a 30% chance. Partly to mostly sunny Sunday in the low 90s. Jonesboro, that's your KLEK 102.5 FM weather.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Rebecca Foster. The Trump administration has denied that there's chaos in the White House following the sudden resignation of Sean Spicer as press secretary. The United States is planning to ban all travel to North Korea. And at least 2 people have been killed and 200 injured after a 6.7 magnitude earthquake hit 12 kilometers off the Greek island of Kos.
It's 12:01.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for our Thoughts on the Matter, a program offering opinions from all sides of the issues concerning local, state, and national topics of importance to the Jonesboro community. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters, donors, or sponsors.
KLEK 102.5 FM. Good afternoon to you on your Saturday. It's July 22nd, 2017. This is our Thoughts on the Matter. Kato Wonder is in the studio with you. I'm being joined by Mrs. Norma Farrell, Brother Cobbs, Mrs. Shanquetta Cunningham, and Mr. Brad Dial. Also joining us in the studio is Mr. Stephen Simpson. He is a reporter with the Jonesboro Sun. Miss Farrell, you can't hear yourself in the headphone?
I can't hear you.
You can't? The headphone is turned up. I may have. You just have to hear my voice. Just have to hear my voice through the air because we got to get through this. Okay. Well, I think we've been having issues with that headphone. I mean, you can switch spots if you want to. You won't be on the good mic, but anyway. So once again, we have Mr. Stephen Simpson in the studio, and he is actually the inspiration for our show topic for today, which is murder and violence in the black community of Jonesboro. I'm going to give you some background in which Mr. Simpson. What, Brother Cobbs?
Turn it on.
Can you hear Brother Cobbs? Okay.
Yes,
all right. So he gave us some statistics, which I'm going to read some background for our topic. There have been 17 incidents of homicide from 2014 till today. Out of those incidents, 19 people were killed, with 12 of them being African American. The vast majority of that is 63% of the murder rate in Jonesboro, which is an unusual number since African Americans only make up 18% of the population. This year alone, we have had 4 murders, with 3 of them being African American. The percentage would be even higher if 3 Hispanics weren't killed in one incident in 2014. And these statistics came from the Jonesboro Police Department. We actually made a post on Facebook. We wanted the community to weigh in. So I'm going to read those comments, and then we're going to go ahead and get started with our discussion. Shanika Bell said on our post, boom. And Janelle Hall said, and you really believe those numbers? Shame on you. So we have some people that don't believe the validity of the statistics. So let's move on. A lot of people are tagged in the post as well. Drew Branscombe says, I'm not a black person, but I consider myself an ally to the community. I have pretty close ties to JPD and people of color that I know. This isn't exactly a contribution to the discussion, but since the numbers are so low, 12 AA casualties out of 19, I was wondering if it would be better to look at these cases individually rather than as a group, and to compare the, whoever has the phone on, please turn that down. But one by one, instead of trying to run statistics, I remember a few of these cases, but that involve young people. Of course, evidence from open cases is sensitive, and it is customary to classify the information, but putting some facts about the closed ones on the table might give people a better idea of the real underlying causes than a couple of numbers. That's it for my contribution. Kelly Mendez says ASU criminology and sociology should get involved in this. Michelle Williams says, and you know I have a lot to say that will cause your race as a whole, but especially the men to dislike me. B. Ruff says, y'all not ready to hear me speak on this. Frank Plusinski says, look to Jonesboro City planning, which causes separation, lack of respect and support for diversity, preferential treatment of national stores over local development, NIMBY BYISM in neighborhoods, lack of jobs with sustaining income, development to support the wealthy, and just a smidgen for the impoverished and near the poverty level. Then there's the justice system, if that is what you would call it, that further impoverishes those on the bottom economic rung, leaving no choice but to continue a life of crime just to survive. And Shanquetta says, thank you for all of the comments. Please continue to share. Remember to tune in Saturday at noon as we share our thoughts on the matter. Had a little Mimi dropped in there. Monique Nikki Haynes Spurlock says it's hard to evaluate by statistics alone. Maybe if they focus on violent crimes instead of murder only, the numbers will probably look a lot different across racial lines. Then we can break it down to socioeconomic groups, and that number will still be swayed due to it underreporting and whether, I guess you meant wealthier communities. Also, how many crimes are committed by actual Jonesboro residents. I have lived here all of my life, and I can tell that a lot of these criminals are not Jonesboro natives, and some are not even residents. For some reason, criminals are coming from other areas to partake in crime here because they think that they can get away with it. We have to wonder why they aren't afraid of our authorities. Why do they perceive us as an easy target? Sorry my comment was so long. Hope it helps. And Shamel Rufus says this should be interesting. So we have our background. We're going to go ahead and get into our first question that Mr. Simpson had is, what are your thoughts on the numbers?
Well, I actually think thank you to everyone who commented. I want to commend the last comment because I think that speaks greater volumes, and some of the questions that I had, in which when you send out the topic, as far as the scope and the totality of crime, as for what's the focus of this particular study, because when you isolate it just by numbers alone, we know that they can kind of cause a panic attack when and we know that a number of those crimes have been committed by people that do not live here. And so I think it's good to where we start the conversation, but we definitely have to probably expand the conversation about crime. Crime is not just an African American thing. We've had a rising crime in our population, but that's because we have a rising population. And when you have more people to come to your area, you attract more people, whether they're going to stay or whether they're going to visit, and therefore that perpetuates crime in the community.
Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I do. Hello, everybody, and I'm glad to be back. I live in North Jonesboro and have lived there 66 years of my life. And I wanted to say that I think that the crime is people that move into Jonesboro, and don't get me wrong, I want people to come to Jonesboro. I want them to stay in Jonesboro and be a part of what makes our city. But the last 2-3 people that got killed were neighbors of mine. I would say living within 4 blocks radius. I knew them all 3, and they weren't the kind of people that would even aggravate a conversation with anybody to start anything. So they were just victims. The last young man would he was my yard guy, and he had been into it. All 3 of these people were just people that had moved in the last, say, 10 years. Maybe this last one had been here maybe a year, if that long, and they were just victims. They weren't the kind of people that you would even, just like myself, just a regular citizen, taking care of their business. So I think a lot of people that have came to Jonesboro, not that makes a difference whether you live or die, but they were just people that had moved in here recently.
All right, Brad, Brother Cobbs, either one of you want to weigh in on this?
All right, just doing some research ahead of the time throughout the week, and it's interesting, the numbers that have been pointed out here is that the numbers we've been provided, by our Jonesboro Sun reporter here, they actually fall very close to U.S. national statistics. So is this surprising? I mean, are we just being surprised by the numbers that are happening locally and affecting us locally, but they really fall along national averages? And I'm in a hard position right here to talk about it, but the African American community overall in the U.S. population is about 15%, but the crime statistics are about every 1 in 4. So 4 times as much African American crime as any other racial subgroup.
And
Well,
that-
I would say
well, go ahead, because what Brad said actually will lead into Steve's second question. But let's go ahead and get your thoughts on that, what Brad just said, and then we'll go into the next question.
Well, no, Brad is absolutely right. Nationally, it's very comparative. And even though I think, too, the conversation needs to be had about just really the myth of just the crime and black on black crime, because I don't know if you all looked at the study the FBI put out, 2014 study that showed black on black crime was at 94%, but white on white crime was at 86. So therefore, there's not a disparity. It's just I think a lot of that has to do with the reporting of how the perception of crime, because statistically people are going to commit crime closer to the people that live to them. So if you're in block areas, if you're close to African Americans are going to commit crime close to African Americans. If you're in a Hispanic community, more of the crimes are going to happen by people of your own race. So what's going on in Jonesboro is not some crisis, it's just along the lines. And a lot of the crime too that happens, or the reports of higher crimes in African American communities, really goes back to the larger conversation of the criminal justice system. It's just a lot of the African Americans are more likely to be convicted of such crimes. So therefore our numbers are always higher as a community. And that, goes into the topic too of why we have higher crime rate.
And that kind of, again, transitions into what Stephen's next question is. What do you believe is going on in African American communities that is causing this kind of violence?
Lack of parenting.
Okay, and you want to expound on that?
No.
Anybody else want to weigh in on this?
But it's more than that. It's not just crime in the African American community. It's the reporting. That's just beyond color lines. But you'll have incidents such as we've been looking at rich high schoolers been getting off with rape, literally rape. They've been getting off probation because they need to live their lives. But the impact of crime and the punishment is not fair to different communities. So we have when you look at it just on paper and numbers, you would not want to live by a black person if you did not have any idea of who we were because of how it's reported.
And I live with all in my neighborhood. And I live in my neighborhood. I grew up in the neighborhood because I love the neighborhood. And all in my neighborhood where I live on my block is all my family. And I would live nowhere else in Jonesboro except there. That's where I love, that's what I like. You couldn't pay, well you could, I guess, but by
It had to be a lot of money.
I mean, it had to be an awful lot of money. I like living there. I'm comfortable, I'm safe, I'm not afraid. I don't leave my doors open, but I leave I won't say what I do, but I'm not just afraid to go somewhere and come back at 12 o'clock at night and have to look all around and be afraid to go in my house and think somebody's going to, hit me in the head. And these crimes, the last 3, happened within blocks of where I live. That's how safe I feel in Jonesboro.
Well, going on back to parenting, she was saying a lot of the more prestigious schools and stuff have, like rape and drugs and all this here. And a lot of them get a slap on the wrist and then they move to another community, like going off to college. And what they do, the same thing when they get to college. But it's not reported as them, the school don't keep up a record saying we're sending a rapist. I don't think so. They might do, but I don't think they said we're sending a rapist in your community. We're sending somebody that like to steal in your community. Look at the athletic program. How many of them get caught up in this system of stealing and all this other stuff that normal students, don't do? It's because a lot of times.
Well, I don't think it's just students in athletics. I think you have college students, period, that can get caught up in things.
Caught up in things, and they come from a smaller town, come to a bigger town, and they think they can get, like they said, think they can get away with things, and you cannot. And I think a stiffer crime need to be put even on your first time. That's just me.
You mean a stiffer penalty?
Stiffer penalty, yes, not crime. Stiffer penalty, because they think it's a joke. A lot of them think it's a joke.
And on the parenting, I don't think, myself as being a parent and others here that are parents, I don't think you're gonna go around and wish that your child would go to jail. And you're gonna teach them that, like they say, the apple don't fall too far from the tree. You're gonna ask them and beg and plead with them. Don't go. I do that to my grandchildren every day, especially my grandsons. Don't do nothing when you go out there for the police to stop you. That's the last word they hear from me when they leave. Not that they're gonna do anything, but I know if you do, what's gonna happen. You may lose your life, and nobody wants that for their children. So I wouldn't say the parenting has that it might have a little bit, but not a whole lot.
Yeah.
No.
It's a myriad of things. I do believe it's a myriad of things, because when you look at, just even going back to wanting to give the due diligence to Mr. Simpson and the question, that there are larger conversations that needs to be had and that are going on. I will say that. I was just at the Black Caucus meeting on last Thursday, to where there are people that are working hands-on to work to bridge gaps in the African American community in regards to higher crime rates. And a lot of that is perpetuated for a number of things, parenting, and also people are fighting for scarce resources in their own communities, and so they tend to steal from one another, even though they're all facing the same situations. But they're stealing from one another, they're arguing amongst themselves, and so there are people that are working, because there are problems, but again, it's across every race. But there are people in churches that are influential, especially for the African American community. The church is essential to addressing some of these problems, because you can gather a large amount of people there to at least try to work out some solutions. And I think that also helps too. It starts with not just conversations, but then putting action plans to the conversations. We probably have talked ourselves out. Mm-hmm. We know that we need to do something, and it's time to put our hands to the words that we're saying.
And I'm glad you said that, because that will actually allow us to transition into the next question. But you're tuned to Our Thoughts on the Matter on KLK 102.5 FM. And if you would like to weigh in, our topic is murder and violence in the Black community of Jonesboro. You can give us a call at 870-277-1080. Once again, that phone number is 870-277-1080. You can also weigh in on our Facebook live feed. And Shanquetta was mentioning just a moment ago about the time for talking being over and it's time to take action. So that leads into the next question, which Mr. Simpson asks is there anything that can be done about this? So what are the possible solutions to this?
Education. People need to be educated on different things, different avenues on how to handle their stress, how to handle their anger, and how to just really get along with someone. You can disagree, but you don't have to go around, and kill. But the other violence that we have here also leads up to the murder. But the violence here in Jonesboro, it has risen. I don't care what nobody said, it has risen. It's not only just because people move in here, it's some of the local people here themselves, and it's here. And what to do about it, I think we need to be educated. They need to be educated on a lot of things. If your parents can't teach, you need to go, like you said, the church is a big avenue for the Black community, African American community. But the main thing is that you got to have a drive for someone to open up, because a lot of people say, like you said, talk, but you don't have no show behind it. They might not show up for the first couple of times, but you just keep putting it in front of them, keep putting it in front of them, keep putting good advice in front of them, keep putting good people in front of them, keep putting, the little groups that these kids have, in front of people. Let them know that you don't have to do this other stuff. There's other avenues for you to express yourself.
Right. I mean, there seems to be just an age group here. We talk about one of the statistics of the numbers here of people under the age of 30. It seems like there's just a blatant disregard for anybody other than themselves. It's like there's like a disconnect of actually being part of the community, so they don't actually care about anybody other than themselves. And again, we're talking about the topic here. I mean, I'll say this little disclaimer. This happens across all races. This is not just an African American problem. This happens across every one of them, so I'm going to say that now. But on the topic here, it seems like there's just a blatant disregard for anybody other than themselves, and it's almost like a culture that's being grown. It's just what I see. I mean, it's almost like it's just being grown and praised to a certain point. You ask about, well, what can be done? Well, I mean, there's rules in place. There are laws in place, and it's just, again, a blatant disregard for what's actually there, other than I'm going to get mine and only mine, and who cares about anybody else? And that's something that seems to have grown and just seem acceptable, and that's kind of what I see.
And most males between the age of 18 and 33 gets in trouble because they just coming out of the mom and dad house, getting out on their own, don't know anything. Everybody want to kick a child out at 18, just because the age is there, that don't mean the mindset is there. Right, the maturity is not there, and that's where a lot of young men's getting black, white, Mexican, we get, like you said, all age group, all ethnic, ethnicities gets in trouble.
And I'll say this, I mean, and you could take it as you will, but the family structure, the home structure, the community structure has failed these people if they have made it to that age bracket and they don't know the difference between right or wrong. They've been failed, but they've made it out into the community, they've made it out into the world, and there are rules in place. And you're asking about what can be done. Well, at a certain point, you got to realize that these people have made their choices.
I don't think they don't know that they know the difference is that they choose.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And we're going to have to
the person across the street,
right?
Choose to do it because they look like they're having fun.
Right.
No accountability.
Well,
It's given.
definitely been an interesting first half of the show. We're talking about crime and murder and violence in the black community of Jonesboro. You can give us a call at 870-277-1080, or you can weigh in on our Facebook Live feed. Don't go anywhere. This is KLEK 102.5 FM.
You're listening to our thoughts on the matter on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Jen with your KLEK Learn Spanish Minute. I thought it would be appropriate to do nature terms in Spanish. And the first one I have is el bosque.
El Bosque.
Yes, and that means forest.
Cool.
Yeah, el bosque.
El
Okay.
Bosque.
Yeah. The second one is cielo
Cielo
azul,
Azul.
and that means blue sky.
Cielo Azul.
Yes, blue sky.
The blue sky.
The next one is el césped.
El Césped.
Yes, and that means grass. The next one, la hoja.
La Hoja.
Yes, and that means the leaf. The leaf.
The leaf.
Yeah, so those are some nature terms to get us through this weather. I'm Jen, and that was your Learn Spanish Minute on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Tune in to Community Conversations every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. here on KLEK 102.5 FM. Join host Quabila Jones Harden as she talks to people who are making a difference in the community and learn about the people and organizations that provide services to make Jonesboro a better place. Community Conversations every Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. on KLEK 102.5 FM.
From the KLEK Community Calendar, OESPHA, Eliza Murphy, number 395, presents Fish Fry, Saturday, July 29th, 2017. Plates will include 2 pieces of fish, spaghetti, slaw, bread, and dessert. This will take place from 11 o'clock a.m. until 3 o'clock p.m. at the E. Boone Watson Center, 1005 Logan Avenue in Jonesboro. More information is available at 870-919-6635. 4.
KLEK is starting a new fundraiser which will allow listeners to donate to KLEK while buying groceries. KLEK is a part of the Kroger Community Rewards fundraising program. When shoppers visit a participating Kroger and scan his or her Kroger Plus shoppers card, a portion of the savings goes back to KLEK to help keep it on the air. Details on how to sign up for the program are available at KrogerCommunityRewards.com and at KLEKFM.org. This is a KLEK fundraiser.
And now back to our thoughts on the matter on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And we're back to our thoughts on the matter on KLEK 102.5 FM. Our topic is murder and violence in the black community of Jonesboro. This was a a topic that was brought about by a series of questions from Mr. Stephen Simpson of the Jonesboro Sun, who is in the studio with us, and he's going to be doing a story about this. We're going to go to our our Facebook live feed. Got a couple questions for the panel. These from Quabila. She says, Shanquetta mentioned there being scarce resources. Find ways to help people get what they need, help boost morale, encourage people to take pride in who they are, where they live, and so my Facebook is crashing on my phone, and who their neighbor is. And of course, if you would like to leave your comments, you can leave your comments on our Facebook live feed, or you can also give us a call at 870-277-1080. Once again, that phone number is 870-277-1080. We're going to go ahead and go into the next question.
Can I comment on that last one?
Sure.
Right quick. It was about what could we do to help these issues that we're having.
Ms. Fair, bend your mic down just a little bit.
To help
Okay.
solve some of these issues we're having. Probably, I would say 75% of the families, African American families, are single parents. That figure may be a little high here in Jonesboro. I don't know the correct figure it is, but most of them are by single mothers. And when you have a teenage son, as I do, they seem to, rebel a little bit, unless you're a real strong mother. And that having that single parent has a lot to do with. We need more mentors. I think we have an Amen group here that has a little group going that helps. And if we could have more people that would mentor the young men, it's few women that do these crimes. I think Lindsay McCullough, that one, if you remember in the paper where the girl shot him. That was
well, Ms. Farrell, there are more mentoring groups springing up. The Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated has a Kappa League. The Omega Psi Phi Fraternity has the Ernest Just mentoring group, and there are others.
Alpha Kappa Alpha Kappa Omega. We have my program with our seeing girls. We work with teenage girls.
And Delta Sigma Theta has the.
I'm not familiar with all of these, but I would just say the one that I knew.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's more. And like I said, I don't really have teenagers in my home anymore, except for my grandchildren. I have a couple of grandsons I have one that's 17. The others are little bitty kids, but I don't know who's reaching out to them. Yeah. But like I said, we might need more mentors, and if we have them, well and good.
Yeah. And Quabila also mentioned we have Men on a Mission as well, and we do have several groups. We've had them all on community conversations.
Well, like you said, are they? Like I said, I don't know because I don't have teenagers in my home, and maybe I don't see it because I don't have them.
I don't see it.
But are they reaching out to the community, the Jonesboro community?
Well, I would say that they are, just by the fact that they're coming on to this show to let people know that, hey, we are out here.
I see it today, but I'm just saying, normally.
Well, but Brother Cost, didn't you say earlier you got to put in their face one step at a time? So that's what they're doing. Some of these groups may just be in the beginning phases, and they may not have gotten to a point to where they are as established as a group like the A-Man program or something like that.
Well, I'm glad to know that we do have them and they are reaching out.
Going back to the different groups that we have here, and then a question that Mr. Simpson has is the city putting enough attention on the African American community? As a black woman, one of the things that I regret to hear often is we're always looking for the outside answer. The question is, what is the city putting enough attention? Well, if they're not, how are we galvanizing our resources to be a part of the conversations that happen here. Sometimes we're waiting for these right answers or these right solutions when we can use the great resources that we have to either begin some of the stuff that we need. And I know sometimes resources and get to a lot of that, but we're not as impoverished in areas as we think, where it's just about getting together and being consistent in the programs that we have. I know I participated in a number of things, and that could be a reflection too upon me, because I participated in things. We've had certain talks about relationships with city government and city officials, and we'll have it and we'll be excited for 4 or 5 months, and then we don't meet anymore until another situation happens. So being consistent as well, and finding, again, being our own voice, finding solutions and say, hey, here are the things that we need. So how can we partner? Not that we're looking for you to be the solution, but how can we partner? Because we already have the plan. We just need you to help us work it.
I do have a question since he's actually in here. Can you expand on your question? You say attention. What actually do you mean by attention? Since we're talking about crime and murder, do you mean police attention? Do you mean community attention?
Steve, you come up to Mike Ford, the one on the end of the table.
I mean, that's a very broad question. Yeah, it works.
I guess my question was just kind of a more broader situation, I guess, sort of programs or things like that being done in the community, sort of, I guess.
Okay, because that question could have went a lot of different directions. That's why I wanted to ask.
It's not, I guess, because I've also talked to law enforcement about the issue, and they said they've been focusing on programs coming on radio shows like this one, so I feel like they've done sort of what they've been trying to do, but I was wondering if there should be a issue coming from like the councils or things like that.
I don't know.
But again, how do they know the issues per se? Because one thing I would say, I don't get easily upset with people because I don't know a lot of issues that goes on in different communities because that's not my everyday life. That's why I said I think it's important for us when we know the issues that we're facing to bring that to light. We're always looking for, well, the city needs to do this and the council needs to do that. Well, they have to be educated on the issues as well, and that comes from our voices in fairness to that the other side to that.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to talk about that topic, and I have a lot of varying opinions on it. I mean, should we always be pointing to some other authority to determine how we handle ourselves in different communities, or is it up to those individuals to start with themselves? I mean, we can always say that, well, how are you as this elected official going to change everything that's going on in my community? And it's like, I would probably say I would love to help you, but please, let's start by helping. I mean, it starts with the person first, and I'm not negating what you're talking about, because there is a lot of good groups that you just mentioned that are trying. They're really trying to help benefit, but it still starts with that individual first. You can help people, but if people don't want help, they're not going to accept it.
Yeah, that's true. But I think moving though to the people that are actually wanting to put their hands to the plow and let's get it going is focusing on those that want to do something. And so that's why I said a lot of times people don't know, even if they're elected officials, they're not, or whomever, they're not always aware. No one knows everything. So therefore, I think it's just, time for, again, a lot of the talking that we've done to put those action steps, put some action steps into play, and then begin partnering with these different entities that could help advance our own communities. And you're right, it starts with that individual person. Sometimes though, people don't know what to do, and I think getting together with others is a great first step in moving forward. And that's what I was saying to that question.
We got a couple more comments on our Facebook live stream. Helen Scott says, which culture has a problem with crime, violence other than African Americans, blacks? No other group is ever highlighted for having problems. And Quabila says, start with the city council meetings. David McClain is hosting Coffee with a Councilman on July 29th at 9 a.m. at the fire station on Brazos.
And those are opportunities.
They do times when people are at work and stuff.
Well, you can always go to the council on Tuesday nights.
Yeah, and they do video it.
They give you a 5-minute break there to say what you need to say. Yeah.
But going back to the question though about the other cultures, that's what I was saying. Statistically, every race, you have an 80 to 90% crime rate amongst their own community, because people just commit crimes against those people that are right there, near to them. They're not going to drive 50 miles out to commit a crime. So it's across every spectrum. We have an issue with morale in America in general. We put people on the pedestal that should not be there. It used to be to where we're looking at Eleanor Roosevelt and Langston Hughes as role models. Now we're looking at reality TV stars. And I'm not putting fault on them, but I'm saying, though, just the shift in who we're looking at as aspirations, that plays into culture and crime and how people perceive.
The depth of our values.
Yeah, it's...
Which is like a tablespoon.
Down.
And kind of to answer the question again, as Shanquetta said, I mean, all racial subsects have their crime issues. All of them do. The topic today was simply, the African American community, and really the statistics he provided are very close along the trend line for the entire country. So I guess again it goes back to the question of the topic is why is that particular one so much higher than others? Is that not our topic today?
It's not.
Well, yeah, that's sort of what I was kind of interested in was why, when there's such a, I guess African Americans make up such a small percentage of Jonesboro, why is their number so much higher as a homicide rate?
Yeah.
Right.
And they kind of and while he's asking that, I want to get to one of the other questions that he had on his list. Do you believe the situation has gone under the radar in Jonesboro?
I would say no. We're talking about it publicly, and there's statistics.
No,
to back
people
it up.
in the community are talking about it.
Yeah.
Well, but I will actually put this out here to the panel, because when I made the post on Facebook about announcing the topic and getting opinions, there were some people that put on there, you don't want to know what I think. Why do we have a problem communicating how we really feel about this issue, especially when opportunities are presented for people to speak out, such as
I think
this
it's
platform?
backwards because you pose the question to the public. Of course, you want to know what they think.
Right. But when people don't feel empowered, that whatever they say,
it won't matter to them.
It doesn't matter. They
They
will keep it. And there's also the same mindset of not interacting with various councilmen or not staying abreast of what's going on, because like if I feel like I am voiceless, and there is, but in fairness to them, there is reasons why to feel like that. Where you can't, speaking for African Americans, there are bridges that are being built, but we're still in that infrastructure building stage. We are, I think KLEK and doing the the community segment on Wednesdays.
Community conversations.
On Wednesdays that you have with the chief.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that. I think that's a great start. But it's not that easy. Jonesboro is an example, but that's not the same situations in other communities, even just in Northeast Arkansas. But it begins with the conversation, even attempting to understand, and then just knowing that sometimes you may not always agree, but we can be respectable.
Since you said other communities in Northeast Arkansas, but Jonesboro is the biggest black population in Northeast Arkansas, because you can go to Paragould and Pocahontas and all of them. There are murders being committed up there. Mm-hmm. I mean, how high is their crime rate? There's no blacks committing those things up there, but yet the crime rate is high for those little small communities. So why is there so much? I'm like the person that's text. Why is so much emphasis here when the crime rate is up everywhere? Like you said, it's in the white communities, in the Caucasian, in the Mexican community, it's all over. But it's just that a lot of blacks here in Jonesboro is where the population is at, why they think it's so much. But I've been hearing a lot of things on Pocahontas and Paragould and them Independence County Batesville and all that.
To simply
And this
kind of go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
And this has just happened in the last 5, 6, 7 years to this Northeast Arkansas. Not Northeast, North Jonesboro focus on crime. It has not been that way. I've lived here all my life. We probably got as many crimes in my whole lifetime as happened since these have happened in 66 years. Yeah. So that's saying a lot. And
even the crime disparity just among the community, I voiced to you all when we were talking about this, that the growing crime here in this city is opioid usage between Craighead and Greene counties. I sit on the board of CASA, and we are having children every day Greene County, I think their rate of foster kids have increased by 50% because parents are going to jail for opioid usage. That is the problem. That is one of those things to where it's kind of underlying, like we're saying now, throw rehabilitation money and stuff into that because of the face of crime is changing. But no, seriously, opioid usage among, and that's really more among white Americans than it is than any other race in these counties. But again, though, when you talk about that, it's more now. Then you throw into the mix of mental health and all of this stuff. It gets convoluted because, like I said, the face of the crime is changing. Whereas we've had this same epidemic 70s and 80s with crack, but crack was black. So that plays a lot into how the media and how we look at crime and who's committing it. That plays a lot into what's reported. And again, what the measures are taken to help or, promote what's going on in our areas.
All right.
Because what you were saying, that drug community, it might not just literally kill a person, but it's still tearing away from the families.
And it affects the teenagers that do these crimes. And because the parent is not there. And I've always had the two parents in my house. I don't know, but I can imagine if I had been taken away from my home and put into a CASA or foster care, that I might not be sitting here today.
You tuned to our thoughts on the matter on KLEK 102.5 FM. We are talking about crime, violence, and murder in the black community of Jonesboro. And if you want to weigh in, you give us a call at 870-277-1080. Once again, that phone number is 870-277-1080, or you can weigh in on our Facebook live stream. Another stat that, and I think this is the actual final one that he has on here, Mr. Simpson said another statistic that jumped out to me is that out of the 12 victims, 7 of them were under the age of 30 years old. And I'll just go ahead and read all of the questions that he had in regards to that. What did this say about the African American youth situation in Jonesboro? Is this a sign of a potential gang problem, and what can be done to address this situation?
It's not. I don't think it's a gang problem. I don't think they have gangs in Jonesboro. But and like I said, they might. But I do have.
We have spray painting gangs with railroad cars and knocked over Dollar General.
Yeah, but they don't have the Uzis and all that.
We do not have
and
gangs.
And
I know we have some differing opinions. We don't have gangs here in Jonesboro.
Well,
compared to,
I don't think they do.
Like I said, we need to go to Oakland.
Maybe
for gangs.
I bet they have cliques, but not gangs.
I think cliques is the perfect term. Yeah.
Because I have I'll go back to my 17-year-old grandson, and he has friends, and I pick them up around sometime, give them rides here and there, and I hear their conversations, and they're not bad conversations, and I haven't seen him get in any kind of trouble. It's being motivated toward gangs, so I don't know. Well, I don't think so.
I think we probably have a consensus that it's probably not a gang problem, but let's go back to what he said. What does this say about the youth, that a lot of these crimes are being committed by this demographic?
Okay, as we had said earlier, the drug usage, and the easy access to it, it's easy to get. And then you're going to influence your friend's going to. Youth is easy to be influenced. If you don't have nothing positive for them to do, they're going to get into negative things. It's hard for somebody to come out of good and go from evil to go good. So they stay with it. They don't know anything. A lot of them don't know anything more. Their mothers and fathers are partying with them and stuff like that. They have parties and they right down the street party. That's not a good environment.
Good influence.
I think we also, as a community, need to just have a greater sense of responsibility for all youth. It doesn't matter to me what race you are. If there is something going on, and I know that I can be of help, or I remember there was a situation going on in my daughter's school, and she came to talk to me about a young lady that was going through some issues. I called the counselor. I was like, I don't know who you need to get in contact with, but I don't think her mental state is there. It's just taking some responsibility, even though that's not my child. In fact, she was of a whole nother race, but I cared enough that my daughter was concerned, and so to take the responsibility of hoping that there were some measures going to be met to help her. And I think we just have to take some responsibility.
Do that, and when she grew up, she'll do that. You know, kids learn by watching the parents.
And if you care, most of the time, 95% of the time, they're gonna care. If you teach prejudice, they're gonna teach prejudice. If you teach right, they're gonna. I know from self-experience from my kids and from being around other kids, that it just falls over, just keeps flowing, keeps going, keeps moving.
Yeah. And we just got to work in our own sphere of influence. I know I can't help the millions of kids that are here, but whatever I can do, you just have to, if you're an educator, then help in that area. If you're, if you are a musician and you can help children in that area, you just have to know your area of influence and just be the most impactful you can be.
And don't charge for everything you do. Don't charge for everything you do. Wow.
That's a different conversation, because
we ran through Mr. Simpson's question, so we might can bring that back on the other side of the break. We're talking about crime and violence in the Jonesboro community. This is our thoughts on the matter. Don't go anywhere. This is KLEK 102.5 FM.
You're listening to our thoughts on the matter on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
Black Health Now.
It's the dreaded C word, colonoscopy. This common procedure saves lives and detects advanced cancer in men at a significant rate. People, especially men, tend to avoid this life-saving screening out of fear and embarrassment. Unlike most adult women who've had gynecological screening since adolescence, many men see colonoscopies as body invasion. But if you're over 50, and especially if you're a man, please get over it and get tested. Colon cancer is one form of cancer that can be totally cured with early detection. The colonoscopy is the most reliable method to screen for colorectal cancer. A colonoscopy is routine business for your doctor and technicians. Many have survived because they were tested. I'm Alexis Comer for Black Health Now.
Black Health Now.
Black Health Now is made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization dedicated to uncompromising commitment to communities, service, leadership, empowerment. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org.
The Mu Omicron Lambda Chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated was established on January 1st, 1977, originally serving Blytheville, Arkansas, and now serving Jonesboro, Blytheville, Osceola, Marion, and West Memphis, Arkansas. Today, the chapter continues to make an impact by focusing on Alpha's national community outreach initiatives such as My Brother's Keeper, A Voteless People is a Hopeless People, Go to High School, Go to College, Project Alpha, Boy Scouts, and the March of Dimes. The Mu Omicron Lambda Chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated is committed to Alpha's mission of developing leaders, promoting brotherhood and academic excellence, while providing service and advocacy to the community. More information about the Mu Omicron Lambda Chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated is available at MOL Alphas on Facebook or via email at molalphas@gmail.com.
Meineke of Jonesboro is now Starks Auto Service, a full-service auto repair and vehicle maintenance center, offering engine and transmission repair, brake service, tires, oil changes, and more, performed by ASE certified mechanics. The all-new Starks Auto Service, 2813 South Caraway Road in Jonesboro, 870-204-7112. Starks Auto Service, Jonesboro.com.
Hey, what's up, Jonesboro? This is Hezekiah Walker. I'm so blessed to be on the radio here at KLEK 102.5 FM. Join me for the Hezekiah Walker Show every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday at 10 o'clock a.m., right after Community Conversations, and every Wednesday night right after your local church Bible study at 8 o'clock p.m. Jonesboro, join me, Hezekiah Walker, and give every praise to our God on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Hezekiah Walker. It's the Hezekiah Walker Show.
House of Details, located at 3217 Herb Street, Suite C, is a proud supporter of KLEK, offering detailing on any type of vehicle: waxing, clear coat protection, basic wash, hand wash, shampoo, interior cleaning, buffering, headlight restoration, pickup, delivery, and more. With a motto of, anything mean, we can clean. Details available via Quentin Bogard at 870-273-5187. House of Details on Facebook and houseofdetailsjonesboro.com.
And now back to our thoughts on the matter on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And we're back to our thoughts on the matter on KLEK 102.5 FM. Kate Wonder is here with you, joined by Mrs. Norma Farrell, Brother Combs, Mrs. Shanketta Cunningham, Mr. Brad Dow, and also Mr. Steve Simpson. Amanda Donovan could not join us, so we just want to keep her and her family lifted up in prayer. We've been talking about the crime and violence and murder in the black community. Again, for those who are just tuning in, this topic was inspired by Mr. Steven Simpson, who works for the Jonesboro Sun, who is doing a story about this. And we've been kind of just getting the panel's thoughts and comments in response to the questions that he's asked in regards to this topic. So in the final about 8-9 minutes of the show, just put it out there. We ran through the questions, so just want to kind of get some closing thoughts on this topic and where do we go from here.
The last question is, what can be done to address the situation? I don't think we.
Well, I read through all. Well, I read through all of them, but if you want to go ahead and.
I'm saying I don't think we talked on.
Brad.
That much.
That was the last one.
Wow. So I really want to answer that question by posing a question. You know, I mean, Shanquetta talked about, and we've all talked about, there's a lot of nonprofit organizations out there. There's a lot of groups that are really trying to reach out into their own community, say it like that, and try to do good and try to do positive. And so props to them, most definitely. I mean, because it starts there. But what do we do when, right? So what do we do when that doesn't work? What do you suggest do when that doesn't work and you're still seeing crime, you're still seeing things like this happen? Because sadly, people don't like authority. So what? I want to pose that question. What is the direction of this? Because people don't like authority, but they obviously don't like groups trying to benefit.
Yeah. I think for me, and that's fair. The reality is we will never be able to stop crime. Our hopes is just to reduce it.
Right. No, I agree.
You know, and so I think even if you have a program and say, hey, I'm going to try to reach out to you. I want you to live and forge a better life. And if you have 20 people and 19 of those people still decide to go another way, we have to be proud of the success that we do have, and even if it's with that one, and then they take the responsibility and move on. I don't think we should just stop, and then to be honest with ourselves and say, hey, maybe this strategy does not work. You know, maybe we have to go back, and that's okay. Sometimes we just have to, maybe change the focus. And I think that's probably been another part of the conversation we need to have, that we do things just because it's been our tradition and stuff, and some stuff is just not working.
Right. So I'm gonna. So here's the reason I asked that question, is because we can talk about programs that want to benefit, and again, I'm all for that, because people need, like I said, there needs to be change. You can't just do the same thing over and over again. You got to try something different, right? Well, again, it starts with people that they want, if they don't want to change, they're not. Okay, so like you said, 19 out of 20, let's just use that example. So 19 out of 20 decide they don't want to do anything better. They don't want to benefit. So we're going to come back for the same conversation later of, well, they got caught up in the system, right? So, right, I mean, that eventually would happen. That's why we're talking about crime statistics. And then we're going to talk about, well, he was such a good kid. He went to church every Sunday. No, he caused crime. I mean, so it's an ongoing cycle. So again, that's why I asked the question, is like, when we got all these good, positive things that we're trying to put into the community, but some things don't change, and people still do what we're talking about today. And so the question is, what do you do to address the situation? There's so many questions. There's so many ways to address the situation.
The last 3 people that were murdered, if I'm not mistaken, the last one was 22 years old. He was murdered by a man that was like 35.
Right.
Okay. the last two before him were like 55 and 30 or something. I knew them all. And it wasn't, they weren't so much murdered by teenagers. So we need to reach out beyond the teenager.
Agreed.
We're talking about what you want to know is about crime, and we're focusing more or less on, they're not the ones that's doing the crime. They're not the ones that's doing the killing. The teenagers aren't. They are victims. One was, he's 22, I guess you could say that's almost a teenager, a little older. But the last 3 or 4, I mean, they were not babies. They were adults, young adults. So we need to reach out over that hill.
Well, it's still a general question, though. You know, I mean, like if we're trying to benefit these people, and we're trying to, if we're trying to benefit the community here, and we're trying to, see change, see positive change, and give them tools to move forward to not have the discussions we're talking about crime. Well, if that, like you said, 19 out of 20, I mean, that's a good example. Is again, what do you do to address the situation? Because you could say, well, once they get out there and they're out in the real world where you have authority, well, people don't like authority. And when we can agree, there's a general understanding of we don't.
Some people
right, don't like authority. So then, what do you do? I mean, there's rules set in place for the community.
Some people don't like. Well, I would say this: there is a mistrust of authority. So therefore, there's a lack of respect. Whether that's right or wrong, that's the reality. That is. And what thing with African American communities in particular, what we're having conversations about, and I've been in some of those conversations, to where we're looking at crime, we're looking at crime from internally and externally, because we're victims of both sides right now. That is our reality. And so, but what we have to, I think one of the things that we have to do moving forward is just know that, again, you're not going to be able to help everyone. And we just probably need to be more vocal, because I think the media and mainstream culture gets it confused that when black on black crimes happen, that we're going to bed at night saying, man, my son was shot, but I'm glad it was shot by a black person. We're just as angry. But a lot of times, though, the conversation in the media is like, we're not making as much noise when there is black on black crime. And it's part because maybe we just need to start saying we're upset when it all happens.
When anybody dies.
We're just as upset, and it's hurtful. But again, we have to come together and and probably have a greater voice, not from the always getting out there when these situations happen, but being a consistent voice, I guess I should say, is that we look at it as crime is crime. Right. If you have a child that is going down the wrong path and stuff, I think we have to be honest with ourselves and say, hey, get some help, because that 9-10-year-old that's doing crimes now and setting cats on fire, now, seriously, they're going to grow up at 19 and do something worse. So we just have to be honest and with ourselves and have a greater voice.
All right, we got a couple more comments from Facebook. After the Fisher Street cleanup on July 29th, there will be a kickoff for the Enough is Enough campaign from 1 to 3 p.m. That's from Kubila. Ashley Wilson says impulse control, mental health issues, no activities for our youth, lack of mentorship, and it goes on and on. Everything costs to participate, lack of respect for young people. Crimes that occur in some middle high class neighborhoods are hidden or not reported. You even have communities that handle crime within. Even the Catholic Church protect those who confess within their confinement. The numbers, in my opinion, are not fairly reported and or accurate due to the protection of certain neighborhoods and individuals. And Kubila says keep pushing. You can't give up at the first time defeat. We got about a minute and a half left. Final comments, y'all?
It's a hot one out there.
I think we probably just need to continue. Those are some great points raised. And again,
well, you want to run this back next week?
I won't be here next week. Let's do it the week after.
But whatever we can do to help. That starts. That's the first
and just pray for our youth and for our city. And especially since they think North Jonesboro is the worst place in Jonesboro, and that's where all the crime, they seem to think, and I don't agree with that, but I'm going to live in North Jonesboro and support it and pray that things will work out.
Brad?
No, y'all touched on it. I really don't have much to say.
Brad is getting ready so he can run for office and be an influence in our community.
Well, of course, whenever that happens, we'll have to temporarily take him off the panel for equal time restriction. But and that would go for anybody that runs for office. It's just a FCC thing. But of course, now if Brad wins, we'll welcome him back to the panel.
Just note, I did not say that.
All right, we got about 13 seconds left. I want to thank my panel. I want to thank Mr. Simpson for the topic. I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in. May you have a great and blessed weekend. This is KLEK 102.5 FM.
Thank you for listening to our Thoughts on the Matter on KLEK 102.5 FM, a program offering opinions from all sides of the issues concerning local, state, and national topics of importance to the Jonesboro community. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters, donors, or sponsors.
KLEK LP, Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy